Louisiana primaries change? That was a big discussion during day 2 of a special session in Baton Rouge. We explore why the governor added this particular item to the agenda.
Everybody still stays vigilant. We're not out of this yet.
With another night of below freezing temperatures, it might already be too late for some preps. So what can you do to stay warm?
A hard freeze tonight, and some spots, especially north, will plummet even further than last night.
Just like us, the animals at the Audubon Zoo are hunkering down in the cold. We'll find out how zookeepers are keeping them cozy. This is WWL Louisiana News at 10.
It has been cold across southeast Louisiana, like really cold. Just look at these freezing temperatures we saw around the area earlier today, and overnight it will likely be even more frigid. That's why we want to be careful. Good evening and thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Cherise Gibson.
And I'm Devin Bartolotta. One thing we thankfully will not see is rain and sleet. Now, this is what it looked like around 4 this morning on Bourbon Street. Moisture left ice on almost every surface. It caused lots of roads to close. We're going to get a check on that in just a moment.
But first, without the rain, what should we expect when you wake up tomorrow morning? Let's check in with WWL Louisiana meteorologist Alexandra Cranford. I know a lot of parents are especially watching this because they have to take their kids to school in the morning, especially in JP.
Yes, and it's going to be in the 20s then, and it could feel like teens south of the lake, but north of the lake, it's already in the 20s, and actually many spots around Homeland Thibodaux already in the 20s as well. Bogalusa and Hammond saying 23 right now, and it's just 10 p.m. We have almost 10 degrees probably to fall in spots about 5 to 10 north and south of the lake. Here is our freeze warning for tonight, of course, until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's going to include all of our spots. There's also a wind chill advisory, so it could feel as low as 5 to 10 degrees, and that goes until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning too. And we do indeed have some wind. It's not extremely windy, but there's definitely some wind, especially for our south of Lake Pontchartrain spots. So it is feeling like teens at the lakefront, at Slidell, at Bay St. Louis, and at Reserve right now, as well as Morgan City and Baton Rouge. Jumping into Precision Cast so you can make your plans for tomorrow morning. It's doing a pretty good job of capturing what we're seeing. Again, no freezing precipitation. Any ice should be melting. Of course, if it didn't already, it might still be around early tomorrow, but we did get into the middle 30s today. Here's the 7 a.m. wake up forecast. Teens north, 20s south, but feeling roughly 5 to 10 degrees colder than what you're seeing right now. Now through the day tomorrow, we do warm up, but by 9:30, still 20s and 30s. And then boom, we hit the 40s, well above freezing by tomorrow afternoon with sunshine. I'll have the rest of your forecast coming up in a bit.
All right, Alexandra, thank you. Roads were closed all over the area today. That caused big problems. Rain and sleet fell along with the temperatures. At one point, the Causeway, the Twin Span, and Luling Bridge were all closed, along with plenty of other roads. Luckily, there were no major issues with crashes, but it was a different story in other parts of the state. Early this morning, a crash on I-10 in Baton Rouge caused a massive traffic jam that lasted hours. Some drivers even decided to abandon their vehicles on the highway. So who decides to close roads?
Scouts who go out and will look at the roads, and if we see that the bridges, mainly the bridges or the roadways, are becoming unsafe because of the hazardous weather conditions, then us, local law enforcement, state police, will make that call to close the road. We'll call our district office, and they will put out the barricade.
Now looking live now at a few roadways across the area. Check this out. This includes the Twin Span. Everything currently open. We will continue to monitor this overnight. Again, we will not have rain or sleet in the coming hours, so hopefully that keeps things clear, but you should still avoid driving if possible.
And with those bitter temperatures, you are likely to be bundled up right now watching us inside of your home, but for some that might not be an option.
Local officials are working to make sure the unhoused and even those who lose power or don't have a working heater have a warm place to go. Amelia Strahan finds out how.
After an icy cold moved into southeast Louisiana Monday night, into Tuesday morning, many are preparing for another freezing night.
This cold can be a life-threatening cold, right?
For those who may not have a place to get out of the weather, warming centers and shelters across the area have beds ready.
We always want to be able to provide for people. It's good to get people off the streets. 2 centers are open in Jefferson Parish for anyone without heat in their homes, one on the west bank at Terrytown Playground and another on the east bank at Johnny Bright Park in Metairie.
But officials are also working with homeless shelters to provide additional space if needed.
There's a lot of coordination regionally to make sure that there's space across the board.
Those centers helped more than 50 people on Monday, and they're expecting even more on Tuesday night. Jefferson Parish President Cynthia Lee Shang says even though Monday night was uneventful, no one is out of the woods yet.
Hopefully everybody still stays vigilant. We're not out of this yet. Even up until this weekend, I think it's supposed to stay cold. So just everybody kind of just be in this mode of being extra cautious.
An additional shelter is open in New Orleans as well. It's at the Rosenwald Recreation Center on South Broad. In New Orleans, Amelia Strahan, WWL Louisiana.
There are more warming shelters and warming centers in parishes across the area. You can find that full list on our website. You can also call 311 if you need a ride within the city of New Orleans. And you probably know this by now, but most major school districts will remain closed or virtual tomorrow. You can find that full list on our website, but as I mentioned at the top of our show, Jefferson Parish will be open, as well as Plaquemine, St. Bernard, and St. Charles. So if your kids go to those schools, you want to make sure that they layer up as they head to class.
This is your bundled up breakdown. How many layers will be enough on these bitter cold mornings? When it gets this cold, follow the 3-layer rule. Start with a form-fitting, moisture-wicking base layer, then add a warm insulating layer like a sweatshirt or fleece, and top it with a water and windproof coat. Layers work best because your body heat is trapped between the layers of clothing, and they're easy to peel off if you get warm. Make sure to add a hat and gloves to trap even more heat and to protect your fingers and ears. If you're not properly dressed, you could be at risk for hypothermia. The CDC says to watch for symptoms like shivering, exhaustion, confusion, memory loss, and slurred speech. If your body temperature dips below 95 degrees, find medical help immediately. There's very little danger of frostbite with the temperatures we're seeing in southeast Louisiana. The danger really sets in on windy days below 10 degrees. But if you're outside for hours in temperatures below 31 degrees, it is time to warm up if you notice grayish yellow skin, waxy feeling skin, or a pins and needles feeling. As a general rule, try not to be outside for more than 30 minutes at a time when it dips below freezing. Remember, older adults and young children have a higher chance of being affected by the cold, and they don't always realize it right away. Take breaks, check on your neighbors and loved ones, and stay warm.
And during this cold, fire officials are warning you to be careful while you heat your home. In Hammond, there were 3 fires overnight as a result of the freezing temperatures. One of those fires was caused when the heater at a restaurant started smoking. Another at a home was started by a space heater. And a third began as someone was trying to warm their frozen pipes with a blowtorch. So some tips for you here. If you are using a space heater, get one with a safety that turns it off if it ever falls over. Also make sure it's at least 3 feet from any other items. It needs space. And never try to heat your home with your oven or your stove. Most importantly, make sure you have a working smoke alarm. And don't forget to download our free app. That way you can get the latest forecast no matter where you are.
New tonight, 2 homes caught fire in Jefferson Parish. It happened on West Napoleon near David Drive. We're told people were in both homes at the time, but they were able to get out okay. The fire department is still investigating what caused that fire. A man has been arrested for breaking into a Covington home and raping a child inside. Early yesterday morning, police say Zachary Lapine broke into a house and attacked a victim who was younger than 13. He was eventually confronted by the homeowner and ran. Police found him a few blocks away. They say he did not have any connection to the victim. And an update tonight. New Orleans police now say that no uniforms or badges were stolen during a robbery at a police supply company. They were able to confirm each item taken after a full inventory check. But for now, they are still suspending traffic stops by plainclothes detectives. If you know anything about the break-in, call Crime Stoppers.
Today, a bill looking to change the way the state holds primary elections made it out of a committee hearing and will soon head to the House floor.
And tonight, we're finally hearing from Governor Landry on why he wants them to move them from open to closed primaries. Whitney Miller takes a look into what it would mean for voters.
Well, there is a lot of criticism about this proposal. Members of the House and Senate on both sides of the aisle expressing several concerns about the addition of this item, especially in such a short special session.
Year after year, voters in Louisiana cast their ballot using the same process. everybody's vote counts in every election.
In a Louisiana open primary, the two candidates who received the most votes, regardless of party affiliation, advance to the general election, unless the candidate takes more than 50% of the votes. Governor Jeff Landry wants to move to a closed party system, where a voter would have to be registered to a specific party in order to cast their vote for the party candidate in the primary.
It's about fairness. It's about simplicity.
Monday, for the first time, we learned why Landry wants that change. During his address to the House and Senate, Landry called the state's current system a relic of the past.
Our jungle primary system is the only one of its kind in this country.
WWL political analyst Clancy Dubose says that's not quite true.
Louisiana is not the only one. We might be the only one who does it exactly like this, but there are many versions of a jungle primary. And the truth is, only 17 states out of the 50 have closed party primaries.
Dubose says the proposal is garnering criticism from both sides of the aisle for several reasons.
More than a quarter of the voters will not be counted.
On Twitter, Senator Bill Cassidy wrote a closed system would disenfranchise independent voters.
Nobody in Louisiana is asking for this. It's going to cost, I think, $90 million for these extra elections.
So why is Governor Landry making such a proposal?
The governor wants this because it's part of a power grab that will enable him and his oligarch-like financial supporters to be able to threaten Republican legislators.
Dubose says if legislators don't fall in line with the governor's wants, Landry could throw his weight behind an opponent in a primary election. For now, the proposal goes before the House for debate. Whitney Miller, WWL, Louisiana.
Also at the Capitol today, a bill that redraws the state's 6 congressional districts is heading to the Senate floor. Under a court mandate, a new map with a second majority black district must be decided at this special session. This is an issue that we followed for a while now, and we'll keep you updated as it moves through the legislature.
A fireman makes a daring rescue to save a dog from an icy lake, and it's all caught on camera.
All animals, all pets should be inside when the weather's this cold.
Even though they have fur, your pets can still get hypothermia and frostbite. But what about those wild animals out at the Audubon Zoo? We find out how they keep warm.
One more hard freeze tonight in the teens and 20s. Then we're back to 60s on Thursday with a few showers and another cool snap we have for the weekend.
The Pelicans are off to a good start in the first half. Find out why their depth is a big reason for their growth.
As brutally cold weather sweeps across much of the country, there was an amazing rescue in Utah. Look at this. A family pet fell into a frozen pond and the rescue was caught on camera. You can see a firefighter crawls to the edge of an ice shelf and then dropped himself into the water. And then he pushes that dog up and to safety. The fireman was then pulled out. Amazingly, both the dog and the firefighter are okay.
Oh, that is so scary. And with this cold, the staff at the Audubon Zoo, they're taking precautions. That is to protect the animals here from those frigid temperatures.
Yeah, they are treating the change in weather very seriously. Paul Murphy takes us to the zoo for a look at how the animals are staying warm.
Like some of us humans, many of the animals at the Audubon Zoo are riding out the cold snap indoors.
Some animals really can't handle this. Some of the birds, some of the primates, some of our pig species, they're just not built for cold weather.
Tuesday, the only elephant in sight was the weather vane on top of the elephant enclosure. The Maine wolf came out of his house just long enough to take a look at our camera. These alpacas poked their heads out of their barn. That's as close as they came to the freezing temperatures outside. Curator of mammals Joe Flores says it's a serious matter when it gets this cold at the zoo.
We keep most animals locked in so that they make good decisions for themselves. We have heat lamps, we have extra bedding. In places that we have concerns about losing power, we have pre-stationed generators.
There were heating elements throughout the aviary where some of the exotic birds live. Other locations like this one that houses the Barasinga swamp deer had extra hay and bedding for the animals.
They prefer to just be outside in the sun. So we don't force them to go in because that would stress them out.
The crowd was sparse because of the weather, but Jennifer Frosch says the colder than normal temps is what brought her to the zoo.
I enjoy cold weather, and I know there are some animals that do enjoy cold weather who would normally be, sleeping or just sitting still. So I'm excited to see if there are any animals who are, more active because of the cold weather.
Folks here at Audubon say that the cold weather precautions that apply to the large mammals and other animals here at the zoo should also apply to your family pets.
All animals, all pets should be inside when the weather's this cold.
Forrest says as part of the cold weather protocols, he'll be spending the night at the zoo, checking on the animals and activating generators if the power goes out. In Uptown, Paul Murphy, WWL Louisiana.
That's cool. That is cool. Sounds like a big cozy sleepover at the zoo tonight.
I always wondered, what do the zoo animals do? Now we know.
Right.
Nice and cozy.
Are we at about 20? It feels like 17, 15 degrees outside.
Yes, and then we have the wind as well, and that will be something into tomorrow. We won't actually have as much wind, but I think it will be enough to bring that feels like temperature down for tomorrow morning. So tomorrow will be very cold. Actually, our air temperatures south of the lake will be similar to where we were early this morning, but if you're on the North Shore, you will be much colder in the teens as opposed to 20s. Here we are right now, the Kenner Airport right at 30, the lakefront 31. In fact, all of our locations at or below freezing at this point. Other spots are in the 20s. And of course, we have a hard freeze warning. We've been talking about this for days, and it's in effect already. This is the kind of cold when you get into the range where you're at or below freezing for so long. You can see 18 hours plus north of the lake, 12 hours plus south. That is where you can start to see pipe bursting kind of weather. So it's a little bit different. Different houses have different requirements. Elevated houses, older houses, newer houses, different types of insulation. But generally, if you do have an elevated house, even south of the lake, and you're worried about your pipes tonight, certainly make sure everything is protected if you can. And then, of course, you can run that thin stream of water. And we've been hearing all week the best way to do that is find the faucet farthest back in your house away from the street and just run that one thin stream of water from that faucet. Our wind chill advisory is in effect tomorrow, and this goes till 10 a.m. tomorrow for north and west of the lake for those single digits or teens for the feels like temperature. I'll show you more in a second. First, wanted to touch on our morning lows this morning, 24 at the Kenner Airport, but the drop happened pretty fast, and at Slidell, 23. So that's why we had all of those freezing kind of situations on roadways like bridges and so forth this morning. This, by the way, was a record low for today's date. You can see we tied it from 1972. Afternoon highs today climbed into the 30s, above freezing, so that did help with the frozen road situation, but not everyone got to above freezing. Hammond stayed at 32. We do have the winds still coming in from the north, a bit breezy, especially south of Lake Pontchartrain, so our feels like temperatures range from the teens into the 20s. And we are expecting tonight low temperatures north of the lake, probably maybe 15 to 16 or so for a lot of spots right along the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain, and middle 20s south. This is what we're thinking for the air temperatures for early tomorrow. So clearly a really cold feel north and south of the lake. And then looking at the wind chill, this is what I have. Even though we're starting in the middle 20s south of the lake, we'll be feeling like teens or lower 20s through the morning. Your wake up forecast on the North Shore, if you're out maybe waiting for the bus, doing something, getting the kids to school around the 6 a.m. hour, 16 degrees perhaps, and wind chill near 8. And then moving even to 7 and 8 a.m. in the lower 20s, still feeling like teens. So use a lot of caution tomorrow. Of course, we've been talking about it for a while. All the layers, the hats and mittens, things like that you're going to need for tomorrow morning. And then we warm into the 40s for the afternoon. So here's your planner for tomorrow. A few clouds, but mostly sunny. And then tomorrow evening, we're in the 30s, and we are no longer looking for very cold weather the following morning with a hard freeze. We're done with the hard freeze, at least for the South Shore for the next week. But north of the lake, you could get back into the hard freeze range this weekend. Thursday, though, we warm way up with clouds, couple of showers, nothing frozen, no ice expected. Will be way too warm for that. This is our next front Friday night, setting us up for a chillier feel on Friday, but even Friday morning, we won't be frozen. We'll be in the 40s, rising only to 50 on Friday. And then look at the weekend lows, lower to middle 20s north and around 30 south of the lake. That's a hard freeze north, light freeze south for the mornings, and highs both days only in the 40s.
The Pelicans begin an important 4-game homestand Wednesday night before leaving New Orleans for 8 of the next 9 games during Carnival season. It all starts with the Hornets at 7 tomorrow. This contest will also begin the second half of the season for the Pelicans. In their first 41 games, the Bayou Birds are 24-17. In 7th place in the Western Conference and have an 11-7 record against the top 6 teams in the West. NOLA also ranks in the top 12 in offense and defense across the NBA. The Pels believe one of the biggest keys is depth, with 7 players averaging double digits for points.
Our roster, we have legitimate NBA players on our roster, like really, really good NBA players that aren't even playing. And there's not many teams in the NBA that can say that. You know, that's hats off to, player development for getting these guys to a point, all of us to a point where, we can be rotational pieces, serviceable players in the NBA, and credit to the front office for putting together this roster, I think, and credit to the guys for their work.
We have a really deep team. Like we legit have 12, 13 guys that can play anywhere. So I think our depth is one of our strength of our teams, and we got to continue using it and continue performing when we come off the bench. Starters gives a good lift, but the bench is just really what makes it different.
Saints offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael, along with 2 other offensive assistants, were let go this afternoon by the team. Carmichael was a part of Sean Payton's original staff in 2006 and moved to OC in 2009 when the Black and Gold won the Super Bowl. But Carmichael officially took over play calling duties in 2022 after Sean Payton departed. In the last 2 seasons, the Saints offense has been inconsistent, ranking 16th in the NFL in scoring and 15th in total offense over that span. The Saints O has also been criticized for being one of the least creative attacks in the league. Coach Allen, in his end-of-year presser last week, mentioned an openness to more creativity moving forward.
I think we're always considering new ideas. And I would say, there was, from a system standpoint and schematically in some of the things that we did, there's a lot of it that works. And certainly I think there's some things that we can do better.
In college football, Corey Raymond is returning to LSU as their defensive back coach, according to multiple reports. Raymond is considered one of the architects of DBU and has developed several first-round picks like Derek Stingley and Jamal Adams. The New Iberia native spent the last 2 seasons with the Florida Gators. In college baseball, LSU landing at number 4 in the D1 baseball preseason top 25. The Tigers are the defending national champs after their magical run to Omaha last year. LSU will have 21 players returning from the title team, including All-American Tommy White. The Tigers will also add the number 3 freshman class in the country. LSU opens the season a month from today when they host the Virginia Military Institute. That's a look at sports. We'll be right back.
All right, one more check on what's happening across New Orleans. Wouldn't know it's so cold outside until you step outside, and then you're looking at upper 20s, some of you lower 20s like Bogalusa. And look at the feels like temperature ranging from 15 to 20 degrees. Tomorrow we hit highs around 45. Nice and warm, y'all. Are you ready?
No.
Sure.
Compared to today?
Compared to tonight, you know what? I don't want to complain.
Yeah. Well, Canadians are generally better than us equipped to handle the cold, but some recent videos coming out of that country show they're getting a little bored. It seems like they've taken to seeing what they can freeze just by putting it outside.
Okay, then it's not just what, but how fast. Like throwing boiling water into the air. We've seen that happen a lot. Or cracking an egg, as you saw, or into a frying pan, or even stirring up some ramen. Look at this. Noodles in a bowl. They're frozen. That's great art. Luckily, our cold shouldn't get us any instant freezes like this. If it does, I'll move.
Keep it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, also, we do the same thing with the heat. Baking cookies on the windshield. They can't do that in Canada.
They can't do that.
So. Have a good night, everyone.